Hey guys, welcome back to my podcast. This is Educational Connection here, and we are going to be talking about equal education. Say hi to the crew.
Hi.
Let's do this. Hey guys, now we're back at the podcasting table. My name's Sean.
I'm Batiste.
I'm Sana.
And I'm Dennis.
And today we're going to be talking about equal education throughout the United States. We have a few talking points, and we're excited to share them.
All right, so we found a conversation on Twitter between a DPS student from Cass Tech and a educational activist, as he likes to call himself. And it starts with the student claiming that DPS life isn't all that great. Inadequate education, as she puts it, outdated books, and apparently contaminated water. Wow. So, what do we all have to say about this?
So let's talk about some of this stuff. Let's talk about funding. Let's talk about classroom shortages. Okay, so Virgil mentioned funding. According to everycrsreport.com, state governments provide 47%, local governments provide 44.8%, and the federal government only provides 8.3%. So where these disparities come up is how the local governments are getting this money, and the majority of that money is coming from property taxes.
Yep.
Wealthier districts are going to get more money from that property tax when they don't need it as much, and impoverished districts aren't going to get so much money from that property tax, and they are the ones who need it the most.
Okay, so a lot of it comes from the fact that like people more talk about the fact that it's just like looking at the fact that like I can come from outside the city and come to an inner city school and not have to pay anything. But then if I'm an inner city kid and I want to go out to one of those schools in like Bloomfield Hills or somewhere else, I don't have the capacity to be able to pay for that.
Exactly. That's kind of like my situation. Like, I wanted to go to like Renaissance and Cash because I lived in the city. But my dad told me that he wanted to take me to Groves and enable for me to go there outside of my district. First, I had to go through like a lawsuit, and then I had to pay $13,000 a year just to attend a public school in another district, which kind of leads back to the point that you brought up about gerrymandering. And basically, gerrymandering can be defined as like manipulating boundaries to favor one side or one party. According to the article, gerrymandered school district perpetuates segregation. Families are increasingly segregated into communities based on income status. The segregation of public school families by income between school districts increased by more than 15% in 2017, and at the economic segregation in school districts increased. The test score gap between low-income families and high-income families increased by more than 40%. So, this type of gerrymandering limits like opportunities outside of high school, such as jobs, success in college education, and more.
So now we see like because of the way that local governments fund the school districts, there are so many disparities that have been created. But what's the state government doing?
So the way the state funds education is really mostly by taxes. But the thing is that's really wonky here is that every state has a different way of funding, and every state does not fund the same. So let's say per pupil in New York, each student is worth $23,000.
Mm-hmm.
And in Vermont, each student is worth $18,000. So it's completely different. So that is a $5,000 difference per student.
So on the federal level, there has also been some activists kind of pushing a pro-school choice program, which is programs to fund private schools. So on top of the fact that these public schools already aren't getting enough funding for every single student that they have to have top-notch or at least near top-notch supplies, they're also talking about taking even more away from those public schools. And one of the head honchos behind this that is a very public figure is Betsy DeVos. Initially in Michigan, she was the Republican Party chairwoman, and now she is the Secretary of Education, meaning that all of these ideas that she had for the public schools and what we've specifically been talking about DPS, she's bringing to like nationwide. So not only will Michigan be suffering under her hand, but now all other states will follow suit.
So, and all countries kind of had this history of, doing it at a local level, not really, prioritizing education that much. But the difference here is that other countries have moved on. And I want to talk about France specifically. Now, 3 laws were passed. So first, education spending was initially low and mainly private, and you can see that 1833 law indicated by the arrow. And then in 1867, another law was passed that brought in local funds. Okay, GDP rose. And then 1881 is when the national government took over, and the GDP just skyrocketed. That's the term. And it's not just France who's doing this. So then the question arises, what is going on in the US? Budget of the US government for the fiscal year 2019, you go down to the Department of Education. They have a little blurb here that says, quote, decades of investments and billions of dollars in spending have shown that an increase in funding does not guarantee high quality education. So these are the views of the federal government. And so now this is what the controversy is. Is funding actually going to help education? Now, why does the federal government hold these views? And it all goes back to something called the Coleman Report. What ASCD.org is saying is that the problem with the report is that the report contained major errors likely to have reduced the size of its estimates for school effects on students' achievements. Among other problems, the report's authors had failed to use available scaling techniques to validate their procedures, had made serious mistakes when assigning indicators to major variables, and had failed to measure crucial variables now known to be associated with school effects. In addition, the report had used non-standard procedures for statistical analysis, which generated falsely deflated estimates of school effects.
All right, guys, this has been Education Connection. All in all, we had a great discussion. We talked about gerrymandering, state funding, federal funding, and worldwide funding and how they do things over there. We hope you guys enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and hit that bell. Thank you.